Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Who We Are, a Chronicle of Racism in America, and this is a new documentary from directors Emily and Sarah Kunstler, and this is a poignant and relevant look at the history of racism in our country and how it still permeates throughout today. And you have Jeffery Robinson, who is really the anchor of this film, who basically is doing the presentation of the thesis of this film about racism and how it's still prevalent and how something needs to be done about it. And he's the one telling the audience a lot of these things. He's the one going out and having conversations, interviewing people, presenting the facts and figures for this argument. And this film is very informative. It's really well thought out and well structured. It's the kind of argument that has a lot of specific evidence. It's well structured. It's something that plays out in a meaningful way. One thing about the film that's kind of a drawback to me is it never feels like, a lot of the time it doesn't feel like it transcends being a TED Talk, because a lot of it is him up on a stage presenting. It's like, cool, it's a TED Talk, but it really isn't a film a lot of the time. But when the film does become more dynamic, it's when he's out and about talking to people. There's one particular scene that I think is probably one of the most important sequences in the film, is when he goes up to a couple of men protesting with Confederate flags in front of a monument and has a conversation with this man about slavery. And I felt like if there was more stuff like that, which obviously was probably emotionally taxing to have that conversation, you could see it on Robinson's face. But stuff like that made this film feel more special and more than just, here's a lecture. Because a lot of it is just a lecture. It's a well thought out, well structured, and well evidenced lecture, but it's still a lecture. And the challenging thing about that is you're going to feel lectured at. And I feel like this is the kind of film that is a very important film, and I think a lot of people need to see it to gain perspective. But it's also going to be the kind of film that, especially if you look at the title, more than just the Who We Are, like a Chronicle of Racism in America, it's going to be the kind of thing where it's just like, if you see that title and it makes you mad and you're going to hate this movie, you're going to hate this movie. It's not going to be something, I don't know if this is going to have any new converts, but the thing is, if you do go in with an open mind, there is a lot of well thought out evidence in this film to support this thesis being presented in this documentary. And I think Jeffery Robinson does a fantastic job of building that up, making strong comparisons, comparing movements today to movements back when he was a child with Martin Luther King, and making those parallels and using people's own words to support perspective. And somebody said something, or an entity said something, they said it, and it's there. I think this film is very interesting, and if you go in with that open mind, willing to listen and hear this out, I think this is a special kind of film, especially with those moments where he's out talking to people, engaging with people, and having a dialogue. That's more than just you sitting and watching a TED Talk, which a lot of this film turns out to be. But in general, I think this is a worthwhile experience. Go check this one out. But those are my thoughts on Who We Are, a Chronicle of Racism in America. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.